and welcome to the Gnostic correspondence study of revolutionary psychology by the Gnostic master Samael Aun-Weor. This is a series of reflections, practices, exercises to help deepen and aid in your understanding of this great work. Chapter 5. To Accuse Oneself. Law and order. In esoteric cosmology, there is order to creation. Laws that govern the cosmos. Cosmos itself is a word that means order. We have this expressed very simply in the Tree of Life, when we know how to understand it. As we've said before, the Tree of Life is like a stick figure of the universe, represented in the lines and circles called paths and Sephiroth. Heaven, earth, creation, true divine human being, God, revealed through the multiple dimensional reality, extending from above to below and even beneath. Depending on where we put our attention and how we comprehend it, we see divine truths expressed continually. When we first look at the 10 Sephiroth, we may notice a chasm. At the division from above and below, the mysterious Sephiroth, God, or knowledge, obscured, unrevealed. It has no path coming to it or leaving from it. It is the first or true abyss that exists between superior and inferior realms. The Greek word for knowledge is gnosis. This is the Hebraic tree of knowledge, or the burning bush before the mount which Moses ascended. Its only bridge is comprehension, the means by which we reconnect, reunite, through understanding contrast in connection with purpose, above and below. In this separation, we see the laws of 3 and 7. These are the two laws that fundamentally organize creation. But in total, there are 10 Sephiroth, which represents the completeness or complexity, or the multiplicity expressed within unity. The 10 eternal relationships that become the unfolding of the one law, which is love. 10 reduces into 1. 1 plus 0 equals 1. Beyond this, we also have the law of 12, which allows us to crystallize the different expressions or virtues of love. Because love is not love if it is not active, alive, consciously expressed. Love is a verb. Love is loving. God is love. Therefore, love is God. We all want to feel loved, but we can only feel that which we have the ability of feeling. We can only feel loved as much as we are capable of loving. Love is law, but conscious love. This is the piece that is generally missing in religion. Consciousness is what is missed or misunderstood. Unknown. The scriptures are not generally explained publicly by an awakened master. We have parables, stories, myths, mythologies. These are all preparation for the path of initiation, which is the pathway to the mysteries of knowing, revealing. Gnosis is the comprehending of the knowledge of love. To his inner circle, Jesus said, "To you it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not. For the one who has, more will be given, but from the one who has not, even that will be taken away." Which is quite the koan. We cannot understand these words with the intellect. This is why he gave his teachings in parables to the public. It is indispensable for us to really understand the deep, profound meaning of comprehension, as opposed to theorizing. To comprehend is immediate, direct, something that we experience intensely, deeply, and that inevitably becomes the true intimate means of conscious action. It is spontaneous, natural, simple will, free from the depressing process of intellectual, subjective reasoning. Comprehension converted into the impulse of action is formidable, marvelous, edifying, and essentially dignifying. We must comprehend the koan of our life. Now, you may recognize these numbers or multiples of repeated in sacred scriptures, such as the Bible. God, we could say, is 1, 3, 7, 12, many, infinite. Diversity is unity. We could see it in all essential pursuits of life, or the aligning with this one law as we navigate the many. And this brings us to the paths, which provide the levels, structure, and stability of the tree of life. We may notice 3 horizontal lines, 7 vertical, and 12 diagonal paths, 22 in all, which provide the level, the structure, and stability of creation, representing the laws that are the steps in the marvelous ladder descending like a musical scale from the unknown through the knowable, hence Gnosis. So now we come to the opening of the chapter in relation to the essence and its place and purpose in creation, and why Master Samael equates creation to these musical notes, because the law of 7 harmonizes. The creation of this universe begins outside of time and space, in the absolute, abstract space, with the note do. As the vibration slows down, it permeates and radiates throughout the sum total of all stars, planets, and systems, the infinite, with the note C. It further condenses and complicates as it structures within every galaxy with the note La. This is where the essence finds its origin in our Milky Way galaxy with the note La. with the note Sol, it vibrates through each system of suns, each solar system. Each planet vibrates with the note Fa. The note Mi, the surface of each planet and living creatures. The note Re, the interior of each planet. For the planet Earth, this first subregion relates to the moon. As the ray of creation is pulled towards the interior, there are more laws required to sustain it as it descends into fewer dimensions. This creates greater and greater mechanicity. As the human psyche is submitted to further planetary influences through identification, the vibration slows through subconscious, unconscious, and infraconscious regions of nature. We understand these three laws as they govern the life of our essence. If we do not comprehend them in life, which is to take life as a school, we become subjected to them. As we identify with them in nature through their effect in matter, to identify is to perceive without the division of attention or psychological separation. To identify is to become confused, conditioned, crystallized, concretized with life, nature, and matter through the senses and sensations. The consciousness of the essence becomes diverted, perverted, inverted, so that the law of three that creates above breaks down and destroys below. The law of seven that organizes disorganizes, becomes chaos in the abyss below. The law of 12, which crystallizes, instead conditions, traps, binds us to matter in an unnatural way, where the light is meant to touch and return brighter with illumination, becomes immer, hallucination with a corrupted relation to it. The light of love through attraction is meant to contact matter, not distract. Comprehend and return with this new understanding of life through its essence, you. But it feels more like a punishment because the attraction through desire becomes contraction, or a contractual obligation to repeat, chase, run, hide. So this is why we have seen the devil with his trident, which he uses to poke and prod and punish us with the three forces of the Trinity inverted, where the seven virtues of the soul or superior senses of those that we call the chakras become perverted into the seven deadly sins or vices. They are the rungs of the ladder going downwards on the tail of Satan. Just like in our governmental system, ignorance of the law does not free us from the consequences. And this is the insidious thing, because it is not outside of us, but inside of us. Insidious. This expresses in depth a little more understanding of where the essence comes from and what it has become as it relates to the set of notes of the musical scale it is moving to. The law of seven harmonizes and organizes all things that are created, descending from the absolute abstract space ideally, that would begin and end with the surface of the earth. But unfortunately, when we become identified with desire to grasp and hold on to things that are destined to change and move within the scale, we create copies of copies, impressions and representations in the mind, where each copy is a little less perfect. As we identify, we become governed by these laws. That's why awakening is often uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to see ourselves not as we thought we were. So this is how we torment ourselves in these 9 inferior regions of the Qliphoth, which we find, for instance, in the 9 rings of the Inferno of Dante's Divine Comedy, where we think, feel, and believe ourselves to be living, breathing fresh air on the surface, dwelling as human beings, unfortunately through identification and subsequently fornication, which is to overthink, overfeel, complicate matters. We expend more energy than is necessary to be. And eventually able to be on the surface at all. We have become subjected to these as creation becomes diverted, perverted, and eventually inverted. When we identify, we're actually crystallizing according to these laws, though we may be ignorant of them, we're still under order or disordered by them. And this is how creation is separated from the Creator, separated from the surface, and penetrated into the subterranean regions of our psyche. That we believe that we are free, but we're actually conditioned and legally bound by identification, pulled towards the center through the caves of our subconscious, unconscious, and infraconsciousness. We are living in caves, and our eyes have become accustomed to seeing the light that's there, which is not the light of my ego, my mind, my personality, my desires. The light comes from the being. The reason I can see anything is because of the light of the being. Even if diffused and removed, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a coincidence of spirit and matter from deep in the recesses of my own subconscious, unconscious, and infraconsciousness. Because we've been down here for so long, we're able to see, and the only thing that we're seeing are the things down here in our own unconsciousness. This is basic Gnostic psychology. You are asleep. It's just a pretty way of saying that you're living in a deep, dark hole. The reality that we're experiencing is very, very minute in correspondence to all that is surrounding us. Still, there exists something very valuable in this abyss. For like a cave, it is also a mine with many priceless gems, rare minerals, and metals. The essence itself, though conditioned to this cave, is also our mind. Like diamonds over long periods of time with pressure and intense heat, there are beautiful crystallizations formed within these compact structures. The essence waiting to be liberated, suffering under this pressure, crying in the darkness. Coal and diamonds are both made of carbon, but they have different structures and properties. Alchemically, esoterically, carbon relates to the causal body within the 6th dimension, where the essence originates. Interestingly, Santa Claus, the Holy Spirit, will bring a lump of coal to a child or essence behaving inappropriately. diamonds honor, beautify light, magnify it, where coal consumes it, and it must be destroyed to liberate the light back as energy. We cannot see it, try it, judge it, execute it from within the cave. We must come out into the light. Be the light, be the essence, be comprehension. The essence exists as a part of the consciousness in the sixth dimension, which is the plane of liberation, and it's not bound by time or space at all. In an instant, we can completely separate. Now, automatically, we don't feel ourselves different because we need continuity. Just like if you were automatically put out in the bright day, you wouldn't be able to see anything. It'd be uncomfortable. It would hurt. You'd have to go back, retreat back down to actually see. That's kind of what's happening, psychologically speaking. Fortunately, the consciousness projects its light upon the circumstances, scenarios, and scenes of life, like screens, so that the light of the being through our experience and perspective, even though warped, may be reflected in our psychological waters of life, so that we may see ourselves, being ourselves, comprehend ourselves in activity through lived experience. But to capture its true relationship, we must have our attention divided between subject, object, and location. Bring context, feel contrast, connect the dots, inside with outside, above and below. For us, it's hard to believe that the moon is not a glowing, luminous planet. It appears like a star unto itself, and in actuality, it's just a dead, gray, dusty rock. It's our perspective and relationship, planetary influence, that confuses our senses. It's fascinating. It's a reflection of the astral light, or light of the stars, which is the solar light of the heavens. Most prominently, our sun, spiritually speaking, our being, our God, are our chemical, spiritual gold, running through the caverns and veins of our philosophical earth. The word comes from philosophy, which is love of wisdom. Similarly, in this way we are tricked by the light of the conditioned essence as it shines through our egoic desires. We believe it to be alive, speak truth. Logically, it makes sense, which is why we need to employ more senses, our spatial sense, which is attention with awareness while feeling, so that we may find and refine this liquid gold of the being. For this, we need life as a school. It's different levels or lessons structured for us to come to understand ourself and creation. And we have everything we need to do so. But I don't know if you remember the days back in school, or maybe you're still in school, but not everybody wants to learn. We're not all doing our homework, our assignments. We don't have faith in the teachers. We don't understand the students. We don't understand ourselves. To accuse oneself requires self-observation with self-remembering. Remembering the being, God, the unknown from moment to moment, against all odds. But to accuse oneself is to separate from oneself. To see oneself as we are, not as we believe or desire ourselves to be, but what we have become. what we have made of ourself, what we've done with this divine force of creation given through grace, and with its magnetic power, it's become a monster, a great impediment, standing on the threshold, guarding the way back to the light. We are like David facing Goliath, and it will not go peacefully. It will be a battle to the end, but not a physical battle. We cannot fight it in the same way we created it. Although we use the same laws, it must be destroyed. Remember, the law of three creates, so it also eradicates. We use the three factors. It was born through identification. It will be eliminated by comprehension. It was nourished through fornication, and it will be disarmed and destroyed through transmutation. With the creative force consciously redirected, we liberate the trapped essence and allow it to return back to its divine origin. To accuse oneself is to be awake, to see and try, condemn and execute our arch enemy, the ego. We have to discover that we have the potential of change, but in order to change, we have to see ourselves as we are, being ourselves. Therefore, if conscious love is law, then unconscious love, desire, its antithesis, and therefore it's legally binding, imprisoning, and must be discovered, rooted out, accused, and destroyed. In this way, we return the essence back to its point of origin, and with it, our consciousness, freed and awake, with a brighter, deeper understanding about the process of life, living, and loving. In this way, we return with the light of wisdom.